The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We have a presentation from Cambium Networks on their latest new and exciting product, the cnReach. It's for it's a SCADA radio, and I'm going to have my colleague Tom Ferris do a brief introduction. Just a couple of administration notes. I have recorded this webinar, so at the end I will send out a link where you can watch it as much as you want. Also, if you want a copy of the presentation, you can just respond to the email that I'll send out afterwards, let me know that you'd like a copy. And the other third thing is that we will be taking questions, so if you want to submit a question through the system, there's a way you can do that, and I will pose the questions to Bruce when it's most appropriate, and we'll also take them at the end. So without further ado, it's over to you, Tom.
Thank you, Lisa. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Tom Ferris, the Director of Broadband Sales for Alliance Communications, located in sunny Wayne, New Jersey, just outside of New York City. It's a little cold today, but the sun is out, which is a nice thing. We haven't seen it in a couple of days here. We've been getting some snow, as I think a lot of the rest of the country has lately. So again, thanks for everybody coming on board. This is another webinar in a long series of sessions we've had throughout the year. We try to, as Alliance, we try to put highlight seminars and webinars on a monthly basis of some of the exciting things that are coming from a variety of our different manufacturers. So today we're going to talk with Bruce Collins of Cambium Networks. He's the product manager for their new cnReach product. And this is a very exciting product. It's a bit, I guess it's a bit revolutionary for the market that it's going after. I'm going to put a couple of comments up prior to turning it over, as well as give you some more information about Alliance Communications and what we do here. So just a couple things that, let me see if I can get my screen to move. Here we go. Okay, so what's exciting about today's presentation? Well, for me, first thing is this ain't your granddad's SCADA radio. You know, when everybody talks about SCADA, you usually think of numbers and speeds that resemble what the old dial-up modems used to do way back in the day. Now our networks are demanding a lot more capacity and a lot more functionality and a lot more use way out at the edge of these networks. So it's not just about turning valves on and off anymore, or getting low bit rate data off of sensors. It's about supporting these existing legacy products, but also doing a whole lot more way out at the edge of the network. And what we're going to find today is the new products from Cambium that address this market are providing higher speeds in a variety of different licensed and unlicensed frequencies, to give you the ability to do more way out at the edge of your network than you've ever been able to do before. All right? So those are some of the exciting takeaways that hopefully you're going to get today, and Bruce is going to put a little bit more meat on the bones during his presentation today. So just to give you a little bit of information about Alliance, we are a wireless and wireline distributor. We have several different product categories that I put up on the screen here. One of them is wireless products, like we're talking about today. The other is infrastructure products. These are all the steel, cable, and other support products that go into installations on towers and rooftops and just about any type of environment outside. We're also in the IDAS and ODAS technology business, so we supply a variety of active components as well as a lot of the passive components that go into indoor and outdoor DAS and microcell deployments. We're a fiber fabrication shop. We can customize any type of fiber optic termination you can throw at us, as well as selling a variety of other products, testers, splicers, raw fiber optic cable. And finally, we're in the supply chain business. A lot of the nation's wireless carriers use Alliance facilities across the Americas to supply product and kitting services in their local operating markets. For instance, AT&T and T-Mobile use us across the United States to provide inbound and outbound logistics in many of their major markets. We have contractors coming into our facilities every day picking up a variety of material required to build out cell sites or rooftop sites or pole sites. We're also, like I said earlier, we're a leading supplier of infrastructure solutions. We have a world-class product assortment that I'll show you a couple of names that you'll be quite familiar with in a couple of minutes. And we have inventory in all of our facilities across the Americas. And the other thing is we're experienced and we're trained professionals. Most of us have been doing this for longer than 15 years. So when you get one of us on the phone, most of the time you're going to get an answer from us, and we're not going to have to hang up and call you back. We try to be independent in our recommendations. You'll see that a lot of our product categories do have overlap. So I will sell multiple vendors of certain types of radio technology so that I could be a bit of an honest broker on your behalf and recommend the best technology for what you're trying to do. We also provide pre- and post-sales technical support, as well as product training, or actually certified product training for several of our manufacturers. We do have several trainers on staff that go out and can train you on your site, or we will run training sessions in major markets across the United States from time to time. And we are Pan-American. We have operations throughout the United States, Canada, Mexico, and Latin America. So we can service any of your requirements if you have them in multiple countries throughout the Americas, and we also do ship anywhere in the world. Some of the technical services that we provide, we do microwave path licensing with Industry Canada and also the FCC. So if you have any licensing requirements for microwave or for any of your LTE deployments, we can assist you with your licensing. We'll do network design as well. You sit down with us for a couple of minutes, you show us some simple Google Earth maps, and we'll help design an entire network for you, whether it's a point-to-point network or a multi-point network. We do radio path surveys. We do them in software, as well as we have certified installation partners around the country who can actually go out and do on-site surveys and path analysis for you. We'll do product pre-configuration in our logistics facilities. So prior to leaving our warehouse, we can have upgraded firmware loaded, as well as any types of feature keys that are offered by the manufacturer. We can also load any special scripts that you might have on individual radios. So basically, when these radios show up, they're ready to pretty much grab and go. We also do kitting in our facilities as well. So if we have to build out any special cabinetry for you, we can provide those types of services as well. We do tower designs. As you'll see, we represent 3 or 4 different steel manufacturers who make towers, and we help pick the tower for you based on what you're trying to do and where you're trying to do it. And then we also provide Tier 1 and Tier 2 technical support and RMA support for several of our manufacturers. So Alliance can be kind of a one-stop facility for you for not only purchasing products, but also supporting those products as well. Just to put up a couple of the names of companies that we represent, what we call the best-in-class broadband radio solutions. We have vendors that supply product in backhaul and transport systems, whether they be point-to-point or multi-point. We have products that are in the licensed and unlicensed bands, anything from narrow-band, sub 400 megahertz, all the way up to 70 and 80 gigahertz. And then we also provide a variety of different types of products like mesh and Wi-Fi products. I still have WiMAX up there, but I have to actually put a slash on that and add LTE to that as well. And as I said earlier, we provide a variety of different towers, as well as all different types of power products, whether they be AC, DC, UPS, or any other types of solar or any other types of renewable type power out there. And if you see the products that we represent, these are, I wouldn't say they're all household names, but I would say these guys are some of the top manufacturers in their markets. I'm not trying to be cagey here, but we do not sell cheap stuff here at Alliance. There's a lot of other distributors out there that you can find on the web. We sell products that work, that hold up in the environments where most of our customers need to put them. And these are products that we are proud to represent and also proud to support. That's it for me. Just a couple of cleanup items here. As Lisa said earlier, we're going to send out copies of these these sessions to everybody. We have a YouTube channel as well where you can listen to this as well as any of our past presentations. And if you'd like to follow us on any of the social media, please feel free to go up to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and subscribe to us, and you'll get all of our updates. And with that, I will turn this over. Thanks very much. Lisa, you can take the con.
It's
all yours, Bruce.
Well, thanks, Tom. This is Bruce Collins here from Cambium Networks. I appreciate Alliance giving me the opportunity to speak to you today, and I thank you for joining. What I'm going to do is give about a nice summary overview of our new cnReach product, which is our SCADA process control and monitoring solution. And I'll go through some details on the product itself. But what I'm going to start with is a little bit about Cambium, how we arrived here, and a little bit about our portfolio and how the new cnReach radio fits into that portfolio. As Lisa mentioned at the beginning, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in that the webinar chat box, and we'll take those questions as they come. And certainly there'll be plenty of time at the end to take any questions that might come up. So let me start with the Industrial Internet of Things in Cambium Networks. Cambium has been in the business of selling industrial and ruggedized solutions to the industries for a long time. And some of those applications you see there on the left are SCADA data, remote office access, including Wi-Fi hotspots, video surveillance and security, so adding video surveillance for protecting both assets and employees of different operations. Lease line replacement, which is an application where we allow you to migrate from paying the phone company every month for that analog circuit and migrate it over to a private network. And then some of the metering infrastructure. And one of the things you can look at, at Cambium, we like to say we connect the unconnected, and it's people, places, and things. And in the context of this discussion today, it's really the things that we're talking about. And the common characteristics are that we generally provide solutions that cover wide geographic areas. We provide lots of points of presence or lots of distributed information around a large area. And then the other thing that kind of ties these applications together is the need to deliver data confidently and confidentially, so both securely and reliably across those networks. And we're really providing the transport. We're providing the data from the back of that sensor, the back of that RTU or PLC, back to the cnMaestro or the NOC or the security office, regardless of whatever that data is. We're all about transporting it from the remote areas back to a central point. And in that light, we're really focusing on, when we talk about industrial IoT, we're talking about electric utilities, the oil and gas industry, the rail, especially as it related to rail operations, water and wastewater treatment and stormwater management, and then intelligent transportation, so some smart city applications where you're monitoring and controlling traffic signals. So one of the things we find as you look across all these different verticals is that there's some very common topologies or techniques that are used to solve the communication problems. And what you see in this drawing is an example of an electric utility. And you can see I have a real simple drawing starting with generation on the left, going through transmission and distribution. And all of those, the green bars and the blue circles are the areas that Cambium has products that can help with those communications. So if you start with that licensed microwave ring in the left, that can be a multi-gigabit per second resilient ring that might go around a large geographic area. There's some spurs coming off of that might be a licensed or unlicensed point-to-point product that's delivering that last mile. And then you also start to see some point-to-multipoint capabilities, and this is especially suitable for backhauling sensor gateways, backhauling meter gateways, and doing things like video surveillance. And then you'll also see a number of strategic substations where it's important to to bring the SCADA processes up to the latest generation of technology. So we can provide that migration path to take those legacy RTUs from all serial to an IP device. And I'll talk a lot about how that's done with cnReach. The oil and gas and petrochem industry is very similar, and I have a schematic here as well. And you can kind of see that the architecture of the Cambium products is quite similar when you move from one industry to another. Here you can see some pump jacks with SCADA control or SCADA process monitoring. You'll see some video cameras for providing video surveillance, and then some backhaul going long distances, whether it might be for a pipeline operation or for distributed even retail operations. We can provide that backhaul. And then lastly, at least in this context, is the water and wastewater treatment. And again, you'll see a very similar architecture where we have licensed microwave, spurs of point-to-point, and then last mile or last point of access, either a broadband for video surveillance or what we refer to as narrowband for the SCADA process and control. So if you look across Cambium portfolio, we have a very wide variety of products. And you can start kind of on the left here. But what we did was we took out of the entire Cambium portfolio, we said, which are the products that are most suited to a heavy industry and outdoor environment? And if I start on the left there, you have our PTP-820, which is a licensed microwave solution. We have a sub-6 or unlicensed backhaul solutions with our PTP-650, and that's available in a variety of frequencies, including 3.65 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz, even in 900 megahertz. We have aggregation, access, and video surveillance with our point-to-multipoint products, again, broadband. And then about a year and a half ago or so, we introduced our cnPilot, which is a Wi-Fi accessed and Wi-Fi hotspot. So this is the cnPilot E500 is an all-outdoor Wi-Fi access point that is suited for industrial applications because of its ruggedization and ability to be simply deployed. And then the last one on the column on the right is which is what we'll talk about today, is the cnReach N500, and that is focused on narrowband control and monitoring, and today available in a couple of bands, which I'll describe in more detail. And in this table, if you look across the top, you'll see two pieces of software that tie those different sleeves of product together. We have cnMaestro, which is our cloud and premises-based network management solution for really lifecycle management from onboarding to planning to configuration, monitoring, alarms, a centralized management system. And I have got another slide on that later. And then LINKPlanner, which is a planning tool that allows you to do a variety of what-if scenarios, trading off what kind of capacity throughput do I need, what kind of availability do I need, and what is my the cost for both the tower assets and the equipment itself. So tying all those together, one of my roles as the product line manager for Industrial Solutions is to make sure that we're advancing all of these sleeves or columns of products to meet all the requirements in the industrial space. And you can see some of those requirements listed at the bottom. But suffice it to say, Cambium is committed in investing in this area to make sure that our products have a wide variety of solutions for the industry applications. So with that as sort of a prelude, I'm going to dive into cnReach, which is our narrowband IoT solution. This product was announced to the market in late September, and we are going to do initial shipments of the product this month. And so you give a sense of it. It's a new product for Cambium, and we're excited to with the interest that we've seen from customers around both the U.S. and globally. Again, the applications, as I kind of mentioned before, it's oil and gas, electric utilities, water and wastewater, and it's all about collecting information from sensors and automating processes. And as Tom mentioned before, that what's changing in the industry is the migration from just serial devices to all IP devices. The other trends are certainly to pull the RTUs or PLCs more regularly, where maybe it used to be once a day. Now it's gone to once every 6 hours, and then we see applications where it's going down to even 5 minutes or 30 minutes for some of these polling cycles. And certainly the amount of data that gets collected with each polling cycle is increasing as well. So combination of things that lead to the need for a network that has high capacity, but also high scalability, so I can scale up as the demands continue to increase. Here's an example. Many of you are probably quite familiar with SCADA applications, but this is an example of how you might use a wireless solution to collect that information. And what I've shown here on the right is a pump jack or a wellhead, and there's, say, a number of sensors there. I want to test the pressures, temperatures. I want to know if certain valves are on or off, what position I can make control. One of the emerging applications is to do proactive or preventative maintenance. So if I can see that the current draw is increasing on a periodic basis, then I know that I might have some maintenance that I need to do there. We got tank batteries with the water levels, oil levels, again, temperature, pressure, all of these sensors. And what Cambium focuses on is bringing those from the back of the RTU or PLC back through that point-to-multipoint and point-to-point network back to that SCADA master server. We also have customers that are overlaying this with some kind of a low frame rate video with some additional monitoring capabilities. So basically weaving in some security applications alongside the process control and monitoring. And of course, the other high-level trend that's happening is the need for cybersecurity. And as new solutions are rolled out and as the deficiencies of the legacy products in security are better understood, it becomes clear that the IT departments within organizations have to work in concert with the network or data team along with the automation team to make sure that these solutions are secure as we move to all IP networks. So a lot of work is done to test for vulnerabilities, make sure that only radios that are meant to be on the network are on the network, and a lot of that process monitoring that can happen in the nature of or in the request to reduce cybersecurity threats. We look at a couple of, as a operator in the industrial space, you have a couple of options for deploying data transport. What we talk about at Cambium Networks is private networks. The other options might be using a carrier network like a 3G or 4G network. Or there's a kind of an emerging capability, which is a low data rate public network based on a LoRa technology or low power wide area technology. And this table kind of shows some of the trade-offs to make between the different solutions. Whether you want to go with licensed spectrum where it's available or go with unlicensed spectrum. The coverage area is often important. When you look at the 3G and 4G coverage maps, they're typically deployed where the people are, not necessarily where the industrial equipment is. And similarly with availability, the availability of a carrier network is typically geared towards that consumer with their smartphone, not for that mission critical packet or control process that needs to run across that network. So you have to kind of trade off the quality of service and availability when you decide between a private network or a carrier network. And then of course the funding aspect. With a private network, you're funding it with CapEx. You buy it once and you can maintain it from there. With the carrier solutions or the public solutions, you have a recurring operational expense. You still need to manage the network from a end node point of view, but you have that recurring cost on a monthly basis. And then of course, it's much easier to tailor the capacity and security when you own the network relative to just taking what is available on the public side. So when we look at cnReach, which is our narrowband platform, there's a number of attributes that we said are important for this platform. The first being deployment flexibility. You kind of saw in those diagrams at the beginning that one size doesn't fit all with this type of product. You have point-to-point configurations, point-to-multipoint. There's what we call store and forward relay, which is a traditional approach to doing relay nodes. And then we also offer, with cnReach, we offer a back-to-back relay mode, which allows you to use a dual radio and provide some additional performance. And I'll show you how that works in a bit. For 900 meg, we have a product that does both the licensed MHz band as well as the unlicensed ISM band. So lots of flexibility in how you deploy these things. Reliability-wise, every unit is tested 100% over temperature. It means at the factory, every radio is paired up with another radio and makes sure that it passes traffic and functionally is working from negative 40 C up to about plus 65 C. So every unit has gone through that testing. And these products are certified for the oil and gas industry, the ATEX HAZLOC. So these are Class 1 Div 2 devices, if you're familiar with that, those terminology. Another important piece here is low power consumption, and this becomes more important in the oil and gas space, but can also be useful in some agricultural industries and some of the areas where the devices are very remote, is to being able to power these off of a solar panel. So these typically are a matter of a few watts and can go into and consume even less when idle versus transmitting. So depending on the duty cycle and how often you're connecting to these radios, the power consumption can be kept quite low. And then I think scalability is a key aspect here, and this is the ability to synchronize multiple access points. And what we mean by that is I can put multiple access points on a tower, or I can put multiple access points within an area that they're within RF hearing of each other. And we synchronize those access points so that they're always transmitting and always receiving at exactly the same time. So this is if you're familiar with the technology, it's a TDD radio, which means it's time domain duplex, meaning I transmit for part of the time and then I listen for part of the time. What we want to happen is that every access point is transmitting at exactly the same time and listening at exactly the same time. So I don't get self-interference. I don't get the AP pointing in the west direction interfering with the AP pointing in the north direction. We also have adaptive modulation, which means that each of those remote radios can operate in the best or most efficient, fastest way that it can, depending on how the conditions allow. So what that means is a remote module at, say, only a mile away or a few hundred meters away can operate at a much faster speed than that one that's a long ways away behind some foliage. And each radio can find its best, most effective speed. And when you're doing a SCADA process, you can get that radio on the air and off the air faster, which means the entire sector runs more efficiently and more effectively because I've optimized for each individual node. We have security. Built in is 128, 256-bit AES encryption. In a software release later this month, right before the end of the year, we're adding things like a read-only user access, adding the ability to have a login banner so that if somebody does stumble across this radio and they're asked to validate that they're supposed to be on there, which makes prosecution that much easier. And is another one of these IT requirements that we are building into cnReach. And then lastly on here is the manageability. We have both a cloud or premises-based cnMaestro and then the LINKPlanner planning tool. So Cambium has a large portfolio. We have broadband products and now this product which is we term narrowband. I wanted to point out what some of the benefits of narrowband are relative to broadband, just for those that are more familiar with the broadband side. Typically with narrowband, you're going to have longer range because it's using a lower frequency. These are sub 1 gigahertz frequencies, so they have better free space loss propagation. Also, you'll get some better foliage penetration at that lower frequencies just due to the physics. And then as these use narrow channels, you can focus all of the energy into a very narrow channel, which gives you better receive sensitivity at the other end of the radio. That also gives you, what that ultimately gives you is higher link availability. You can reach farther, and even the ones that you can reach, you can go faster and stay up in more conditions. And then, of course, narrow-band radios have licensed options. We'll talk about a couple different bands, but licensed typically allows for higher transmit power than unlicensed. So a real brief summary here on licensed versus unlicensed, and this is really tied across both 900 and our 700 megahertz. In 900 meg unlicensed, or the ISM band, it's using a technique called frequency hopping. So it's a frequency hopping spread spectrum radio. And in a licensed mode, it's typically using one narrow channel and sitting on that channel that's exclusively allocated to the user. And in the unlicensed band, we can modify not only the modulation, but the channel size dynamically. So as conditions change, I can increase or reduce the channel size, always optimizing for best capacity. So here's the first radio. It's a 900 megahertz narrowband radio. This product, a couple things to point out that are unique. It can do both licensed band and unlicensed band in the same radio. So it's a simple software configuration to switch from one to the other. So I might start out unlicensed and later on decide to move to licensed. I don't have to lift that out of the network. I can just go in and reconfigure it. The power levels, you can see there, the ISM band is capped at about 1 watt, and then depending on the antenna that you select, you have a EARP limit. And on the mass side, we're currently at 3 watts, but we are looking at in our roadmap to increase that fairly significantly on the mass side. Channel sizes, as I mentioned before, licensed channels are typically much smaller. This product supports 12.5 kilohertz, and then you can concatenate channels and get up to a 50 kilohertz channel size. Whereas on the ISM band, you have a lot of different choices on modulations and capacity. And you can see that on the unlicensed, I can go up to the over-the-air rate is about a little over 4.4 megabits per second. The real usable throughput comes in right around 3 megabits or so. So you lose about right around 30% or so off these numbers for the over-the-air rate, but significantly higher capacity than what a traditional serial-only device would have. And then on 700 megahertz, this is a licensed band in the U.S. It is licensed, meaning it is exclusively purchased by particular operators to cover their own geographic area. So this is, I mentioned this for a couple reasons. One is you might have access to 700 meg depending on which organization you're in, or maybe it's in part of the strategic plan for your company. It is 2 megahertz of channel spectrum. It's typically, once you buy this spectrum, you own full use of it. We can support up to 250 kilohertz channels in that 700 meg spectrum. And again, the power is up to about 5 watts on the transmit side. And then in Q1, we'll be introducing a 450 megahertz version of this radio. And this covers, this is typically used with very narrow channels. While the radio supports 250 kilohertz, the most typical application for 450 meg is a 12.5 kilohertz channel. So the capacity is low, but the propagation is even better on 450 megahertz. And there's a lot of legacy equipment out there that could benefit from the increased capabilities with cnReach at 450 megahertz. If we look at the ways the product can be deployed, there's in the upper left here, you'll see a point-to-point link. And then down below, a point-to-multipoint link. And those are kind of the basics. Kind of in the middle upper part of the slide there, you'll see what's called a store and forward repeater. This is a a traditional store and forward where I have a radio with an Omni, for example, and it's talking both eastbound and westbound. And you can see it's talking to that endpoint out there to the right. The issue with this kind of store and forward repeater, while it only takes a single radio there, you lose about half your capacity when you go through that relay, and you increase your latency because it has to take time to listen for the entire packet coming in and then turn around and transmit that packet going out. With cnReach, we also offer what's down in the middle there, which is called a back-to-back repeater. And this is where I can deploy a single module with 2 radios, and each radio is active at all times, one sending, in this case, west, and one sending east. So I don't lose capacity at that relay node, and I don't increase the latency as I go through that node. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. I could also, in that eastbound direction on that device, I could put a sector on there and make that a backhaul in and a multi-point access point going out to the other direction. So in that way, you can kind of have a self-backhauling device in the middle of the network. And then you can clearly layer these as well. So what's a bit different than a traditional broadband point-to-multipoint system, I can actually take that back-to-back repeater and have it be its own access point. And now I have this layered or tiered structure of point-to-multipoint feeding additional point-to-multipoint. We see the typical trade-off in devices versus capacity, and it depends on, again, on the channels you're using and the types of pooling that you're doing. We typically recommend around 50 or so devices per access point. It can certainly go higher than that, and for low duty cycles you can go up to 100 devices or so. And then clearly at some point you can then take one of those and split it out and have an additional access point layer. So you have a lot of flexibility in how the system evolves and scales up. And as I mentioned before about the synchronization, I can make all of these synchronized so that I reduce the self-interference within my network. As far as connectivity, the solutions that you can put together with cnReach, it does have serial ports, so you can do, which makes it great for migrating from serial to IP. It has 2 serial ports, so if you have anything that has a command line interface, like a terminal interface, you have serial buses. We can talk 485 or 422. We pass all of the SCADA control protocols, whether it's DNP3 or Modbus. And then as we move to the IP or Ethernet side of the radio, you can do anything that has a TCP IP comms or a terminal server interface. And then optionally, we have what's called an analog and digital I/O capability that can be purchased as basically an alternative radio, and now I have built-in analog and digital signals. As far as the data capabilities, the product supports both layer 2 flat networks. So if you want to go very simple, you can set the whole thing up like a big layer 2 bridge. And it does support the VLANs and VLAN tagging. And then with if you want to start to segregate your traffic a little better, you can also set up static layer 3 routes. And really the benefits or reasons why you might do that is I want to separate the broadcast traffic, or some of my, if I'm connecting this back into the corporate LAN, I can keep all of that corporate traffic off of my narrowband traffic, but still interoperate throughout the entire organization. So I can really take advantage of the narrowband, but the IP capabilities. As far as the physical interfaces on the device itself, you can see in the left-hand bottom of the slide, you'll see there's 2 serial ports and 2 Ethernet ports. So all the cnReach radios have 2 serial and 2 Ethernet. It has that power connector in there that can operate from 10 to 32 volts DC. And then on the right-hand upper side, you'll see that green connector in the middle. That's that digital analog I/O option. So it's an optional feature. It's always on the radio because it's the other use for that connector is for synchronization. If I'm going to synchronize multiple access points, I'll tie pins 1 and 2 together on these radios, and be able to have them both reference the same 1 pulse per second signal to again avoid self-interference and increase scalability. And we have at Cambium we have what's called a UGPS, which is a GPS satellite receiver that collects a very precise 1 pulse per second signal from the satellite and then times all of the access points so they're all sending and receiving at exactly the same time. And then on the lower right, you'll see the other end of the radio. There's 2 TNC connectors there. Those are really used for, well, there's 2 in this picture. That means it's a dual radio. They're single polarity connectors or antennas. And if I can buy the radio in a single TNC port with 1 radio, a dual radio. We also offer what we call the I/O expander, which is the radio with no RF connectors or no radios inside it at all. And that's typically used for adding serial connectivity to a broadband network. So if I have a Cambium PMP450i and I want to, but I have a serial application, I can use this box or device I/O expander as a Ethernet to serial converter. The entire system can be managed through a web-based interface. It's a secure HTTPS. You can manage all of the firmware updates and configuration backup and restore via the GUI. So everything can be done through the GUI. But then we also offer our cnMaestro, which is our lifecycle management platform. cnMaestro can either sit up in the cloud. We host it on Amazon Web Services, and that's available today using many of our products. In January, we'll have a beta version of cnMaestro talking to cnReach, so that you'll be able to pull in cnReach devices and manage them in the same way that you can do some of our other Wi-Fi and point-to-multipoint products. And here's kind of a simple example of how that would look on a screen. I have a single view. I can see geographically where all the devices are located, and I can see hierarchically. So I can see if I have a licensed microwave that's feeding my SCADA system, I know that I have that dependency, and that hierarchy gets auto-discovered, and you can kind of see all the way down through the thread of radios what impact a device will have on either upstream or downstream from it. And that's kind of that column in the middle. You can see there's a cnReach access point talking out to both a endpoint and then also a repeating endpoint that goes on to subsequent radios. We have our LINKPlanner tool. This is available across all of our products. So whether you're doing point-to-point or point-to-multipoint networks, you can use LINKPlanner to do some what-if scenarios, understand what's my availability and capacity, and then determine what's the best solution for the communications problem that I'm trying to solve. And I'll just mention a couple things about the Cambium support team. We have a global sales team. We work with our partners like Alliance on distributing the product around the U.S. and areas that they serve. We have partners around the world. This is a global product. We have a call center. Our Tier 3 engineering team sits here in Rolling Meadows outside of Chicago, so we can interact directly with the engineers, and they can pull in people as needed to support issues. And then I also like to highlight the community forum, which is community.cambiumnetworks.com. And we just passed 10,000 users on the forum. So many times you can ask a question on there and get an answer from one of your peers, somebody else that's using the product. And certainly our engineering and product line management team is on the community on a pretty much daily basis. So you'll often get really quick response on questions you might have. And then we have training. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Sorry, just a quick question that's relevant to LINKPlanner. Does your LINKPlanner calculate diffraction loss?
So LINKPlanner will take into account some near line of sight, non-line of sight so it will account for that if there's impingement on the Fresnel zone. So I guess the short answer is yes, and you can add additional obstacles into the path profile. When you import the path profile, you'll see what's sort of a burnt earth view of the ground. So if you know that there's some dense foliage in between A and B, you can populate that into the network or into the tool.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's the training. We do have we support different webinars like this one. We have a certified system engineer program, so you can typically these are hands-on courses you take with an in-class instructor, and you can go through and get some hands-on experience with the products, and then walk out, take a certification test, and become certified with Cambium products. And we also offer a whole variety of warranty and options as far as that goes. So, kind of the summary. That's the cnReach product in a nutshell. We look at connecting the unconnected, and that's people, places, and things. And this is really all about connecting those things that are out there in the industrial space. So, Lisa, I guess I'll throw it back over to you to see if there's any questions that came in.
Actually, there haven't been any questions. I think you did a pretty good job of covering everything, especially the questions we had when people registered. There were a few, but you covered them, right? The use of power.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of questions, and there was one about power consumption. So we definitely support solar operations with this. It's down to a few watts, and then it depends on how you configure the transmit power and the duty cycle. But certainly that's one of the advantages of this platform, is it's really been designed for that oil and gas solar market.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think you did a great job. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you everybody for coming on the call. Like I said, I will be sending out a copy of, or a link to the recording. So if you're bored over the holidays, you can watch it again. And for the people who missed it. And then when I send out that email, if you do want a copy of the presentation itself, just reply and send me a short note, and I'll send you that as well. And if you have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to contact any of us here at Alliance. As Tom mentioned in the beginning, Alliance is a distributor for cnReach, and we're happy to help you with any of your questions and certainly with your orders. So thanks again, and thank you, Bruce, and we'll hope everyone has a nice holiday.